Welcome back, Naughty Nation. Today I'm going to teach you how to make an epoxy inlay.
The Naughty Artisan.
All right, starting out, I took this, I went over to my buddy's shop, Andrew, fabricated here in Las Vegas. And I said, look, let's design a logo for our art studio. And so we just dropped it on the computer and we're banging through this and we're just gonna pull a design together. Then we're gonna drop this on his CNC and have some beautiful effects. Check this out. All right, so now we've got our board. This is the board we're gonna inlay right there. It's a mixed media that we did. It's an acrylic pour with an epoxy overlay on it for the clear coat. And then we're gonna use that and we're gonna put our design in it. So we've settled on this design right here and we're gonna put that into our board right here. It's gonna be a nice sign for us. Now, if you don't have a buddy who has a CNC or you don't wanna find one, we're gonna do an additional video on how to do this at home by yourself with a router. All right, now Andrew's got everything positioned on the CNC machine. He's gonna lock that in, he's taped it down, made it so it doesn't slip. A little bit of a wobble there. This was an afterthought. This was actually an offcut for a piece that we had done at another guy's house, and we trimmed it to size, and I really liked the way it looked, so I was like, hey, I'm gonna make a sign out of this. So I actually didn't prep this. Normally we wouldn't want any kind of bend in that, and we'd prep it ahead of time. All right, this is the fun stuff. Check out the CNC at work, I really love it. All right, check out as the different bit changes that'll happen as the CNC machine is used. Different bits are used for different cuts. As you'll see, we've got some fine lettering go on, so we've got a V groove bit. Previously with the big circle, it was just one big V groove, and then they'll switch out into some smaller bits as well on some of the finer detail. Now, don't worry about this. I'm gonna show you how to all do this at home in one of our upcoming videos. If you've got a buddy and you've got a CNC machine, this is way better and way faster. Plus, chicks really dig it. All right, now that we've got the sign all carved out, we're back at the shop and we're gonna mix some colors here. So I'm going to use a pearl white for the circle and the Las Vegas and studio portion. And in the center, I'm gonna do this emerald green. I'm gonna do the green first, being careful not to drip into the sections that I'm going to put the white into. I'm just gonna take a little cup there, I'm gonna slowly pour it into the portion that we carved out there. Now, I'm not being overly concerned about the board, whether we drip on it or not, because we're gonna sand that flat later. But I'm also not trying to be sloppy with it as well. As I pour this, I want to make sure I have the epoxy resin so that's a little higher than the cutout there, so that we have a nice surface to sand when we get to that. So I'm just taking my time. I've got some good working time. We're using super gloss for our inlay that we're tinting with mica powders that we've got. And we'll list the colors and the products in the description below as well. All right, now I've got that B filled up. That's the green we're gonna use. I really like the way that popped off against that blue, so that's why I chose that color. All right, I'm gonna use a pearlescent mica powder here. I really like this. It's like the inside of a abalone shell. I'm gonna do a generous helping there. I like a lot of that flash. Once again, I've got some super gloss that's clear that we just mixed up already. I'm gonna do a healthy portion in this cup right here, and we're just gonna stir it up, and then we're gonna put this in the rest of the inlay. All right, I got that mixed up. Now I'm gonna be real careful, and I'm just gonna pour all over the Las Vegas section, and then I'm gonna grab a stick and just level that out. So once again, I'm not overly concerned about leaving excess epoxy on the board, but I don't wanna make extra work for myself later. So you'll see I'm gonna grab a tongue depressor after I've just spilled this epoxy all over the portions that I want white. I'm gonna scrape as much of it off of the board as I possibly can, just so I have less work for myself in the next step. And there I am. Look at that beautiful inlay right there. I'm gonna use as much of this as I can to go ahead and get in the circle portion as well, since I've already got it there. Might as well use it. Being careful not to drip into my green also. Now I'm gonna take the portions I didn't have, I'm gonna pour the rest of my pearlescent in there, and then we're gonna let this baby sit overnight and harden. All right, now that I've had this sit for a minute, we're gonna take a torch to it and blow these air bubbles all out so that we have a nice finished product. As you see, I've still got some stuff on the board like I mentioned before, but I'm not gonna worry about that at all. We're gonna take care of that in this next step. All right, here we are the next day. I've got my trusty palm sander here. I've got a 220 grit sander on it, and I'm gonna be gently removing all the stuff that I spilled or the leftover that's on the surface. So my goal here is to make sure I get everything I spilled off and then into the surface of the previous layer of epoxy that we carved into without going through. So that's why I use a gentler grit on my sandpaper. So like I said, 220. Takes a little bit more work, a little bit more time, but I don't burn through my epoxy and into my paint there, so I have a good result. So taking my time, you'll see I'm gonna go through this. I'm taking every little piece off. I'm gonna level it out so that anything that wasn't in the inlay is sanded completely off of my board. All right, now that I've got my inlay portion laid, I'm gonna lightly sand the entire surface of my board so that it's ready to have a good mechanical bind when we pour the epoxy on top of this. All right, I'm gonna grab my handy dandy crocodile wipes. They're my favorite wipe. They don't sponsor me, but they should. So if you're from Crocodile Wipes and listening to this, give me a call. I use this stuff all the time. I love them, they're great. I'm gonna clean off my board really, really well. All of the sanded epoxy that I got there, all that white stuff, we're gonna take all that off. I'm gonna take it, I'm gonna really make sure I'm getting my inlays cleaned off, all my lettering wiped off individually. I want this baby nice and clean so that when we pour our epoxy on it, there's no blemishes, no milky look. It's just gonna be crystal, crystal clear. Now you'll notice after I wipe it off and clean it, the epoxy is a little fogged. Don't sweat it at all. When we pour the next layer on, it's gonna just be crystal clear. You won't see any of that. All right, now that I've got my board cleaned off, now I'm gonna prepare it to pour. So I'm gonna grab my painter pyramids here. I'm gonna prop my board up so it's off of the table and get ready to pour. Today we're gonna use the Epoxy Resin Store High Performance Marine Resin. Super gloss would have been perfect in this case as well, but I wanted to try out the marine resin. It's super rugged, it's got a real thick build and dries really, really hard. If you're looking for a good marine resin, this is the best. Now that I mix it up, I'm gonna spread it out on the board just like this. I'm just gonna use my hands to level it out. I'm just gonna distribute my epoxy evenly across the board. I'm gonna dump my cup upside down to get some of that drips. I'm just gonna slowly spread that out nice and evenly. I'm not pressing too hard, just moving the epoxy around the board, keeping as much of the material on the surface. I'm not pushing it off. I'm being careful to avoid pushing it off. And then I'm gonna let it self-level, give it a couple minutes for the bubbles rise, give it a couple passes with the torch, and this baby will be ready to dry. And I'm gonna tap it all out. Some people have been asking, why do I tap the board? I like to tap the entire surface of the board for a couple reasons. Sometimes I'm using a trowel, it's gonna make the trowel marks go out. It's also gonna make sure every bit of my board is touched, and any spot that the epoxy it makes these little fish eyes every once in a while, it's gonna break that surface tension so that it levels evenly. It also lets me, as I go across it, gets my eyes on it one more time to look for any imperfections, anything I want to address before it cures. So I've got it tapped out. We're gonna take this beautiful second to watch this ASMR as we slowly pop the bubbles right out of this. Man, this is some soothing stuff right here. Thanks for watching our video. This is the final product. We've got a couple more things that I want to show you on this, so watch for some videos coming out. It's beautiful as it is and ready to stand out. I'm going to add LEDs to this and show you how to do it as well. I'm also going to show you how to carve this out if you don't have a CNC machine. So make sure you're subscribing to our channel. Remember, we don't ask for any money for you, but we do ask for 3 things. We ask that you like this video, subscribe to our channel, and ring the bell so you're the first to find out when we've got new stuff for you.
The Naughty Artisan. The Naughty Artisan.
So we'll have some fatter bit, as you see here, and you'll watch the machine will switch it out. Oh, sorry. That just came out of nowhere. Don't put that one in. It's disgusting. Man, you got a lot of video of me wiping it really good. You did not miss a single swipe, I guess. Don't show that to my wife. She'll know I know how to clean.
Can't let her see this one.
Yeah.